Mrs. Quinwell, thank you very much for that warm welcome. Colleagues, if you could allow me a couple of minutes. What we're planning to do this early part is just to briefly just situate ADUN again where we are and what we're hoping for as Professor Quinwell started off with. And perhaps just to add on to what has been said at this point in time is, as we all know, the ADUN, African Digital University Network, actually originated out of a project that is situated in the Center for Learning Technologies at Stellenbosch University. And what we found was that we actually wanted to reach out beyond our current borders or boundaries within the institution and reach out into Africa as well in terms of our vision and our dreams, education with the support of the digital, of course. So we started off with, so it originated out of a program renewal project, and JP and Antoinette and a couple of other colleagues, we started this discussion about how to do this. And it was with the 2018 colloquium then that many of you guys were there, where we actually started to look at also what could be the possible core points in our network to focus on. And as Professor Quinwell has mentioned, that was hugely successful, and many people bought into the idea of the African Digital University Network. Now, of course, in order to be able to move forward, what we wanted to do is to come up with some form of an inclusive agenda, not to duplicate, but to build on each other's strengths, and also to see how this network then will differ from other existing networks. And this is also why we are here today, is that we would like to think of, and of course we're only representing a small proportion of our network here today, but we will also continue this conversation online or digitally as well, to come up with the ideas, what are the broad themes that we think we find important to discover and to engage with in the near future. And we hope that we'll get to the point that at the end of tomorrow, that we could get to the point that even if we start the conversations about potential working groups or working activities, for us that's our dream in terms of ADUN, to move beyond talking and to actually get our hands dirty and to act in some way or another. As been mentioned already, we have three core pillars in our network that we draw on. And the first one is then innovation, specifically in the African context. And as we all know, innovation will mean something completely different for each individual here in the room. And that's something which we acknowledge. For us, it's about, depending on where we come from and what we want to do and what we strive for, how can we actually, as a network, which is our second pillar, how can we actually move that forward and our vision forward? Networking for us is obviously important, and it's the face-to-face. So I said this morning that there's perhaps a type of a blended lens on it as well. We do believe in the physical contact if we can and where appropriate, but the majority of the contact will obviously be digital and online. And we'll draw in our colleagues, that's also part of the network. We have our networking opportunity this evening as well, and once again everybody is very welcome to join us there. And then obviously we believe that everything that we do is rooted in a scholarly approach, and therefore scholarship is for us equally important, that whatever we do, that we engage scholarly with that critically, and that we try to then acknowledge that in our actions. Just very briefly, who we are and where we are at this stage. You'll see that in terms of the network, we grew steadily across the last 2 years, and we're now representing a number of interested colleagues around the world. And you can see that the nexus is still very strongly in South Africa. We've got quite a number of colleagues from Namibia, and specifically the University of Namibia, that is also in our network, and then also many colleagues from Kenya. Unfortunately, our Kenyan colleagues, due to the current health situation across the world, aren't able to be here today or not able to join us. but they are joining us virtually. Also interesting for us is also the interest from colleagues from the Northern Hemisphere. And we would like to welcome also, we've got 2 colleagues from DART from Germany here today, and also Barbara from Switzerland that's joining us as well. And for us, that's also of so much value to be able to share and draw on each other's experiences and to forward the discussions in such a way. This is who we are on the network at this point in time, and obviously we can see in terms of African buy-in, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and throughout the 2 days, obviously we would encourage each other also to draw on our own existing networks and to forward this message as far as possible. Now, in order for us also to move forward, obviously we're a group of people here. There's quite a few people from Stellenbosch and from UCT, but there are also other colleagues that's been joining us. So we are going to relax a little bit and do the activity that many of the introverts hate, but that is to introduce ourselves as well. Not in the whole group, so you can relax immediately. But if in groups of 2 or 3, if you could just briefly introduce yourself, and ideally we can move around for this activity. Please find somebody that's unfamiliar to you, even if it's somebody from the same institution. Introduce yourself, and just before you guys start, you need to do something else as well. And just find, thank you, colleagues. A lot of enthusiasm here. Just find out why you are here and what you'd like to get out of the 2 days as well. So, thank you. Alexander, I'm going to put you on the spot. Yeah, there's our colleagues from Germany, from DART specifically. Anything that you picked up in your conversations and your expectations as well?
Yeah, we agreed that we have all the digital tools and digital media, but we said so events like this here, having the personal contact, finding somebody to really collaborate with is most important. Right. So to build strong networks. So that
network aspect coming very strongly focused here as well. Colleagues, thank you so much for that. That is also how we hope to focus on the following 2 days and the way in which we try to think about the program. We'll start off a bit later on this morning with then the focus on innovation, and we've got some panel members that will participate in that panel discussion. Particularly how we view innovation from an African perspective. And you'll see that we use different modes of delivery. We have face-to-face presentations, recorded presentations, and then also then synchronous, where we have a colleague that will present from Ireland specifically. And for us, that is important that we also open up the discussion about how do we perceive innovation specifically. We then move on this afternoon to this idea of a network, but as a network to start to uncover what we like to refer to as wicked problems within the African higher education context. We will have some presenters that will share some of their thoughts around the idea of possible wicked problems. But for us, it's also then as a network to engage with these type of presentations. So the purpose of the afternoon is going to be in the room next door, is that we as a community start to engage with some of these proposed issues. It might be that not all of these issues that we move forward with it, but at least we are alerted to that. We're then continuing with the idea of a network then tonight at Hidden Valley, which is a beautiful wine farm just outside Stellenbosch. And once again, everybody is most welcome to join us there, even if you didn't sign up for that. Just let us know if you would like to join us there. It's about for about 2 hours, 6 to 8 roughly tonight, where we can continue our conversations in a much more relaxed and informal way. For tomorrow's session, as I've mentioned, we would like to focus on the notion of scholarship, and then also particularly how to move the educational technology field forward. And we're very privileged to have Professor Laura Chernovich from UCT that will lead that session as a keynote, but it's actually combined as an interactive workshop as well, which we really looking forward to, is the more the theory and the practical, to bring that together and to think of our own scholarly approaches and how we can engage with that then particularly. And as I've mentioned, then tomorrow afternoon is really important to us because this is where everything comes together, and many of the things that's been mentioned in the smaller groups. How do we set the agenda? What are the possible themes that we as a group decide on? And that's how we planned the 2 days, that we have the innovation, we have the networking, the wicked problems, and we have the scholarship, and that we've drawn all of that and bring it into our conversations tomorrow afternoon and see if there are particular things that stood out for ourselves. Are there particular things that we could potentially engage with? And as I've said previously, then are there potential possible working groups, and how do we set the agenda then to go forward? From this point in time, we're also hoping that we can talk about the whole idea of a steering committee. We see this as an inclusive network. So even though it originated from CLT at Stellenbosch, we would like it to be that the steering committee is responsive and resembles our whole network. Although it's housed in our centre, it's not a centre network, and that's something that we really want to encourage as well as we go forward. For me, this is actually quite, and this came out, those of you who were at the colloquium in 2018 will remember that Niku was there and he made some drawings of all the things that happened. And for me, I see ourselves as boundary workers, that we will live, we speak, we act in negotiated and mediated spaces. Specifically, we bring a lot of experience and knowledge from vastly different contexts to this space as well. And even with the network, colleagues that are here and that will join us next year as well, that we see ourselves as boundary workers, crossing boundaries, the fluidness of the different boundaries as well, the openness, as Rossi has mentioned. How do we negotiate that? Also, that is really important for us is the whole notion of interdependence. And we appreciate that nature of our network as well. We are very aware of the already existing networks that are, and also being represented here today, our International Stellenbosch University International Office, Niku, Karina, Sarah can't be here today, and that's colleagues that played a huge role in helping us to conceptualize this network as well. And we've got the UCT colleagues with the Image Africa as well. And then all of us bring different networks to the conversation as well. So for us it is also to think about the way in which we can then move towards a certain goal and a certain aim, representing our different networks as well. And we hope and strive towards the idea that ADUN can then form part of this already existing ecosystem, and finding our space in there and negotiate that and decide how we can fit into these spaces that already exist, with our aim to work towards the so-called greater good in Africa and in higher education in Africa. For us it is important, it's something that we create by Africa for Africa, whatever that is that we want to refer to in some form or another. And as I said, perhaps for us, the main thing is that we believe in this network, that we hope for and strive for, that it is that we get to the point that we participate in collaborative projects, in getting our hands dirty, so to speak. There are many conversations, many discussions, many debates which are so important. But then after that, what to do? And I think that is what we dream of in terms of the ADUN. And collaborative projects could be 2 people. It doesn't have to be a huge, fancy project. Starting small, that is also important to us. But that we start to touch on these core themes or core aspects that we all share and have in mind. Before I hand over to JP, perhaps just to thank our CLT team for all the hard work that went into the colloquium and all the work behind the scenes. Also, Junaid, I don't have your picture. He's our cameraman here as well. Thank you so much. And specifically for Christina, I think all of you met Christina. There's Christina there hiding there in the back. An awful lot of work went into, as all of you understand and know, with these type of events. And we do really appreciate it, and we hope that you enjoy the 2 days with us. This is a relaxed space. I know it seems very formal at this stage, and with the presentations as well, and hopefully this afternoon, when we start to work in the different groups, it's fluid in nature. So please, if you want to ask questions or participate in any form of conversation, please do so. We are not very strict in terms of timings, etc. So there's a fluidness in the program as well. Having said all of that, I think it is time that we start to move over to JP.